Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Katie Kreider, Marketing Manager here at MP, and I'll be your host for today's session, Management 101, Why Bad Managers Cost You More Than You Think. We're thrilled to have you here for what is truly a critical topic for HR leaders, executives, honestly, anyone. Before we get started, just a quick housekeeping note. If you stay with us for at least 50 minutes, you'll be eligible to receive one SHRM credit, and that will be sent directly to your email. So we're kind of doing two things at once here. We're talking about a critical topic, but you're also going to be able to get that SHRM credit. We'll share all the details on how to claim that credit at the end of the session, so be sure to stick around. Now, on to our speaker, someone who has spent her career helping organizations navigate exactly the kinds of challenges we're about to talk about today. Sharon Hewitt is a SHRM, CP, and PHR certified HR professional with over 20 years of experience, and she's worked with everyone from nonprofits to global corporations and now serves as a senior HR partner here at MP. In her role, Sharon helps out our clients stay compliant, plan strategically, and train their teams to perform at their best. She's compassionate about building strong leadership pipelines and equipping managers with the tools they need to succeed. For those joining us who may be new to MP, we've been a trusted HR and payroll partner for over 2 decades, offering solutions that streamline operations, reduce risk, and free up HR teams to focus on what matters most, supporting people and driving business results. We're lucky to have Sharon here today to walk us through practical, real world strategies to spot, address, and prevent management issues before they impact your culture and your bottom line. We'll also be sending out the slide deck and the recording of today's sessions this afternoon. Please, if you have questions, drop it in the Q&A, and we may have time for that at the end. If not, we'll reach out and answer your questions directly. So with all of that, I'm going to hand it over to Sharon.
Thank you for the introduction, Katie. Hello, everyone. My name is Sharon Ho. As Katie mentioned, I am a senior HR partner here at MP. And just a few housekeeping items. If you all wouldn't mind muting yourselves so that we could reduce any audio distractions, that would be wonderful. And also feel free to go off camera if you're not off camera already, because due to the number of participants, I want to make sure that our presentation will not affect our bandwidth. So I will go ahead and turn off my camera as we speak. All right. And as Katie mentioned, we will be fielding questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to chat them in. Katie, my awesome teammate, will be helping me gather those questions. And if time permits at the end of the presentation, then I will be able to answer these questions. And as Katie mentioned, if not, then I will review them and respond after the presentation today. So without further ado, I am going to go ahead and get started. All right. So here's a quick agenda of what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to touch upon the hidden costs of poor management. So why bad managers would drain your bottom line, spotting the warning signs, so how to identify struggling managers early on, assessment and accountability, so tools that create measurable improvement, feedback that works, models for coaching without conflict, supporting new managers. So you have new managers that may already be seasoned managers or new as a manager. So how are you going to help them build confidence without creating burnout for them? We're also going to talk about making leadership a cultural norm. So, how are you going to embed development into your DNA? And lastly, we're going to talk about 5 common pitfalls that we see with our clients, working with them and helping them through their organizational needs. So, what is the real cost of bad management? I mean, when we hire managers, we have that we have the intention of hiring someone who we feel has all the skills and all the experience that they have under their belt so they could help us lead our teams and our organization. However, there are some situations that could cause a manager to either fall behind, or maybe something else has gone on in the organization that has made them feel defeated. So low morale and disengagement could be one of those reasons, right? So sometimes managers may not be in alignment with what the company culture is, or what the company vision or vision statement has been presented to them or has changed over time. So as a result, a low morale and disengagement can occur. There's also high turnover costs. So every person that you hire, especially in a managerial position, could cost an employer, a company, 1.5 to 2 times the annual salary per role, because you have to take into account the time that you're spending recruiting these individuals, going through the interview process, maybe spending time advertising if you are hiring externally, that's not within your existing employee base. And then on top of that, other things such as onboarding, right? Your trainings that might be required for certain software, um, or certain processes that new managers who may not be familiar with may need to be educated on. So it could be a very high turnover cost for employers if they have to go ahead and hire someone new. There's also the concern of burnout and absenteeism. So many times, because, and this goes hand in hand with low morale and disengagement, right? If a person feels that they are no longer interested, right, in what the organization does or what their job is, because they are just very tired from the high demands and the stress that comes along with it, they will automatically naturally experience burnout. And as they burn out, they may not even feel like coming into work sometimes because they're demotivated. So you may see an increase in absenteeism as a result of that. And it also translates and trickles down to their employees as well. So if they are seeing that their managers are not able to model the beliefs of the company or good behavior, then employees probably will feel that and follow by example. There's productivity loss, right? So if employees are not showing up, then obviously there will be some sort of productivity affected, right? Whether someone else has to pick up the slack, or on top of that, depending on the type of industry and the jobs the employees are doing, there may be overtime concerns, right? So if you have to have someone cover the slack of someone else, then obviously there could be other areas that will create a domino effect in which that the employees will probably have to possibly put in extra hours in which that you have to pay them the overtime, or even hire extra help. And then lastly, the employer brand damage, right? So many times employees, if they are very happy, when they're very happy with working for a particular organization or a company, they can't say um, anything, enough about them, right? They will gush to all their friends and family about how wonderful it is to work at an employer that they're with right now, and that they would like to, find ways to share that joy with their network as well. So if employees are happy, then automatically they will offer some free marketing and advertising, right, for the company itself as a great employer to work for. But once they start feeling things have changed and that they are no longer happy, then the opposite could occur, right? They may discourage any friends and family from applying for jobs at their company because they are examples of what an unhappy employee would look like. So let's talk a little bit about some data that we've dug up about bad employees, bad employers, managers in the workplace. So according to Gallup, managers account for 70% of variance in employee engagement. All right. Like I said earlier, employers set the example, managers set the example, and they're supposed to model the behavior of what the company stands for, right? So employees oftentimes would look up to their managers, and and it affects their outlook on how the company is as well. And according to SHRM, replacing an employee can cost up to 125,000 for a 60,000 employee role. Okay, so think about that, right? It's more than double the amount to replace someone in that pay range than it is to retain someone who's happy. And from our company insight from MP, clients see up to 40% fewer HR escalations after implementing our leadership coaching tools. So, as our as your dedicated HR partners here at MP under the HR services program, we work with our clients to review their management structure and come up with strategic ways of helping them implement things that they may be lacking or help them further improve what they already have, but they may need some tweaking or some refreshers on um, how to uh, how to liven up their leadership team again, right? They may have already a solid leadership team, but sometimes they just need a person come in to give them a different perspective or offer different strategic planning to help them further engage or re-engage those managers that otherwise may be starting to dip a little bit in their performance. My apologies, went backwards. All right. So here are the top signs your managers are in fact struggling. So there's constant employee turnover or transfers. So naturally, if employees are not getting along with their managers, it will be hard for them to sustain a professional relationship. So as a result, you may see employees leaving the company or requesting to work with a different manager or a different team. Okay. From a personal experience, that's actually happened to me. In my last employer, I was with a great manager who I really enjoyed working. And then there was a slight organizational change in which I ended up being assigned to a different manager. And that person is a great person, when she's not managing the team. I've had an opportunity to get to know her when we had team meetings or team outings. But whenever I worked with her directly, just her management style was very different and her mannerisms were very abrasive. So I wasn't enjoying working with her as much as I had with my previous manager because they were very different personalities as managers and the way they um, directed the team. So as a result, I worked really hard to try to transfer out of that team and ended up with a different manager who I ended up really loved and enjoy working with. And as a result, I became happy at my job again because when I was in that other team that that I didn't quite get along with the manager in, I actually considered leaving the company. And I had been with the company for over 10 years at that point. It really pained me to think that I had to leave because I was unhappy with my manager, but I felt that at that point that was the only option I had. Okay. So the next point is low engagement or morale in their teams. So what happened was is that when you have employees that are not motivated or demotivated because of company changes or change in management, right? Then employees automatically start to withdraw, right? And they don't want to engage in as much, they don't want to participate in as much of the team spirit as they used to. Avoiding difficult conversations. So a good manager would be able to have those very honest and transparent conversations with their team members. And they're not the easiest to have, honestly, and obviously. But as a good manager, you should be able to stick with the facts and have and also show empathy, right? So, if those employees or managers are unable to sustain these difficult conversations, then employees are not going to have meaningful communication and feedback received that they should receive on their performance and behavior. Micromanagement or unclear delegation. All right. So I personally could not, and going back to my own experience, the same manager I spoke with about that I did not quite enjoy working with, she was definitely a micromanager. Although she had really high expectations that as a seasoned HR partner in her team, that we should be able to do things without her telling us what to do. Sometimes her directions are not clear, and that sometimes she would rather do it herself rather than coaching me and guiding me on how to do certain task. So I found that I wasn't comfortable with that because I wasn't learning anything, and instead I felt that she was taking my job away from me. Okay. Then there's feedback from peers or direct reports that shows frustration. Okay, so I also voiced my frustration with upper management about how I did not enjoy working with that particular manager. And I also vented my frustrations with my peers as well. So everybody understood how I felt, and a lot of them tried to help me as best they could to help me get out of the team to move over to a different team. But just getting feedback from peers or direct reports. Um, and going back and all that information going back to the manager, it was a surprise to her. For some reason, she felt that she didn't agree with how I felt her management style was. But obviously, it caused a red flag to upper management when I had those conversations with them. And finally, there's inconsistency in applying policies or holding accountability. Okay, so a good manager will have those open conversations with employees and talk about where areas of improvement are needed, right? So if a manager is unable to have these conversations in a consistent manner with all employees that report to them, then that could be troublesome because some employees may feel that they are being very well managed. And others may feel that there's no management at all because they're not getting that type of communication style. Because for some reason, sometimes employers feel that they can't they can't build certain connections with certain people. And it goes along with um, the whole belief that we would get along better with those that are like us, right? And that could be possibly some of those reasons why sometimes employers or managers have difficulty treating everyone consistently because sometimes they feel that they can't approach certain employees or they're just not comfortable with them. All right, so let's talk about red flags in action. Okay, so here's an example. So one team I worked with had three different managers within 18 months. Their engagement survey had lack of trust as the number one issue. Two of their best people left within 60 days. Okay. So once leadership recognized it wasn't just bad luck, but a management gap, they were able to put coaching and tools in place. And within the year, turnover slowed and trust scores started to climb up. Okay. So I mean, they just had to take some time to find a common denominator, right? Within this particular department. Okay, it's very apparent that there's something going on, that employees felt that there wasn't the ability to entrust any of the three managers that had been in the role for 18 months. Okay, so management obviously saw that as a sign and took action immediately and put into the proper ways to turn things around. Okay. Okay. So spot the signs and you need to act early. So when you see these red flags, you have to take action. Time really matters. So you want to start with a conversation. Keep the conversation constructive, not confrontational, meaning have your facts ready, right? Have your notes ready to point out certain examples, okay, of where you see the where you see the deficiencies are with that manager, and just be very transparent with him. Lay out clear expectations and give support. Okay, so now that you've shared those feedback, right, those constructive feedback, what do you want the manager to do? Like, what do you expect out of him in order to change things up, to turn things around? And what type of support would you be able to offer them? You want to pair your feedback with development opportunities and follow up consistently. So it's not enough just to offer the feedback, but there's also a little bit of homework that you have to make sure you follow through. Okay, because if you are only telling these managers what needs to change and what you expect to see them do, but not take an opportunity to really follow through and make sure that the changes are taking place and that they're being held accountable for it, then you might as well not have these conversations, right? I mean, that's the whole point, is to make sure they understand that you are going to hold them responsible. In many cases, an engagement survey can help you see if issues are isolated to a manager or more widespread in the organization. Okay, so this way you can have a more honest feedback from your employees. Obviously, when we conduct our employee engagement surveys with our clients, we try to keep things as anonymous as possible, right? I mean, we we work with the clients and we are the ones that facilitate these surveys for them. So the survey results that come back to us, we would not know who has completed these surveys. We do um, monitor and make sure that that we try to get every employee to do it, but at the end of the day, the employers will have all the data without knowing who are providing certain feedback. Okay. So there is um, confidentiality to that too, in terms of in many cases, some employees are afraid that it might trace back to them, so they sometimes are not willing to offer honest opinions. But we make sure that we can help them understand that this is information that's important to us, and that we will do what we can to ensure their anonymity. All right. So, why early action matters? So, early action can save thousands in replacement cost, prevent morale from sinking further, and help a manager rebuild credibility faster. Waiting rarely makes a leadership issue go away, so it usually makes it harder to fix. So, we want to make sure we nip this at the bud as soon as possible. As soon as we hear that, we know that a manager is struggling, or that you're hearing complaints from others, we want to make sure that we get those behavior or performances to stop. Assessments can go beyond the annual performance review, right? They give you a structured, evidence-based way to identify where managers excel and where they need support. So whether you conduct a 360 review where you not only review the employee directly, but also review others, right? Their peers, those that report directly to them, or even other managers that may have dealings with these other managers. It would be a great way to see how they are being um, perceived from different levels, right? There's also self-assessments where you would align with leadership competencies. So you provide them a self-assessment, these managers a self-assessment to rate themselves, right? And then you can see how they view themselves, give their perspective on how they feel they're doing. And sometimes they may not realize certain things. And that's where the follow-up between you and that manager to have those meetings to discuss those self-assessment would come in handy. um, Feedback from their team, right? So if they are a department manager of some sort and they have a number of employees that report to them, then you could also solicit feedback from those team members. And again, you could also make this anonymous, right? Because sometimes, again, employees may feel uneasy reporting certain things, thinking that the manager can kind of put two and two together and realize that it's coming from them. Okay. And then there is the performance evaluations with specific leadership criteria. So every performance evaluation is different and it varies by company. And sometimes they vary by different departments or types of job, depending on what their positions are, right? So having specific leadership criteria listed as a performance appraisal piece would be helpful for you to pinpoint what the areas of improvement could be and the areas of success. And then finally, you use the assessment data to create individual development plans. Okay, so everybody's performance is different. You have expectations of your managers to manage in a certain way, but everybody has different skills and different things they bring to the table. So having an individual development plan is basically catered to that person, that one manager that you want to help improve on his management skills or performance. So it's important to have a IDP, individual development plan in place, set with the manager once you've had your evaluation completed with him, to find ways to help him improve. If you want people to buy in, you have to position assessments as a tool for growth, not a way to catch mistakes. So you want to share trends with executive leadership so the changes have buy-in at the top and make assessments on regular part of your leadership process, not a one-time project. So make sure you take these points into consideration. You want to communicate the purpose of the assessments, that it's for their growth, not as a punishment. And many times employees sometimes don't see it that way, right? So we need to assure them that this is for their benefit. You want to tie in their assessment results to coaching and learning opportunities. Okay. And share trends with executive leadership to drive culture change. So perhaps maybe you just need a little bit of refreshing, right? Their culture. And, it doesn't have to be a big change, but maybe some little tweaks might need to happen. And it could be where you've come from a culture that's more conservative, but now as time changes with technology, also helping us with a lot of the things that we do in the workplace, we may want to lean into those to maybe talk about how senior management might want to reevaluate their company culture. And then reassess regularly to track their progress, right? So it's not a one-time thing, right? You meet with the manager, talk about their IDP to help them improve on their management skills or abilities. But now what? After you have this meeting, do you just let them be? Obviously not, right? You need to make sure that they're actually staying on track, right? So have regular check-ins, whether you decide to check in with them every month, every other week, depending, right? What works for you, you decide. And you also obviously have to make sure that time-wise it works for the manager that you are um, putting on that IDP with, okay? So here are some examples of how feedback can drive growth, okay? So um, the examples on the screen basically have, different types of word tracks. So what doesn't work? It's when you're too vague, right? Vague comments like you need to lead better, don't give any direction. And then there's also those feedback that sound a little bit on the judgy side, right? You're just not cut out for management. It will shut people down, right? Because you're basically talking them down, right? You're not building them up, but you're doing the opposite. So instead, you want to be specific and actionable. So do something that would have a different ring to it, more positive spin. So one thing you can do is be specific, right? I've noticed you've often skipped one-on-ones, for example, right? Because these are things that you can point out that has not happened and explain and have that conversation. Well, why are you skipping these one-on-ones? Because the reason why we're doing these is ABC, right? You need to let them know and explain to them the importance of maintaining these one-on-ones if it's something that's crucial to their overall performance down the road. And it has to be actionable. So you have this conversation. Now let's set a goal to schedule weekly touch points. Okay. So now that you understand and that I've explained to you why I feel these one-on-ones are very valuable, let's make it work, right? So let's right now set a goal to schedule these touch points. So whatever the reason is that the manager's telling you that he's not making this one-on-one in this instance, listen to him. It could be because the timing's not right for him. You know, it could be a time where it's super early in the morning and he may have some personal commitments outside of work, such as daycare drop off, for instance, that it's preventing him from making it in time for work. Okay, if that doesn't work, 8 a.m. doesn't work for you, how about 10 a.m.? All right, 10 a.m. I have free. If that works for you, let's change our one-on-one schedules from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Mondays, for example. Okay, so you have to offer them some options in order to make these actionable goals achievable. Okay, so there are some tools that we that you can use to deliver effective feedback. Okay, so the two simple frameworks that work really well that we've used with our that we've demonstrated with our clients is the SBI model, the situation, behavior, and impact. It keeps the focus on observable actions. And then the feed forward approach focuses on what to do next rather than rehashing the past. Um, and then there's also the regular check-ins, normalize their feedback cycles. There's coaching templates and reflection tools that we can also provide, and manager feedback training for senior leaders. So these are the best tools that you can try with your employees. Um, we've seen them be very successful, and we our clients give us positive feedback after they've used, especially the SBI model. So speaking of SBI model, this is a particular training that we focus on when we provide one of our popular seminars called Giving and Receiving Feedback. So this actually talks about the SBI model in depth as well as other types of feedback model. And if you are on our HR services program already, please feel free to reach out to your dedicated HR partner for more information. Or if you're not on our HR services program yet and are interested, please speak with your sales consultant or account manager to learn more about this. So let's talk about providing support for new managers. Being a new manager is kind of scary, right? Whether or not they are brand new, never had any management experience in their lifetime, or they're just new managers for a particular team. We want to make sure that we help them build up their confidence in baby steps. So we want to start small, right? So focus on 2 to 3 core skills at first. So whether it is to schedule regular one-on-ones with their direct reports, or have um, coaching meetings with their direct reports. Just set these small goals for them first to help them achieve that. Use peer mentors or buddy systems. So if there are other managers that you feel who could be a great mentor for your new manager, please consider setting them up as a pair so that the new manager can have someone to talk to and to turn to if they have any questions or need advice, and offer micro learning or short videos. So sometimes these short management training videos could go a long way. I know with as a manager, time is always an issue, right? You have so many things you need to do within a short period of time while you're at work that you can't possibly fit everything in all at once. So if you can offer some sort of a short video or micro learning session. These sessions could be anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes long. All right, they're very achievable. Just set it up for your new manager and ask them to complete them. Okay. Provide a manager toolkit. So these are templates, checklists, guides, just so that your new manager has something to refer to, and that if they perhaps did not think of something, right? There may be a considerations checklist, for example, on how to discipline an employee on the team. They may want to refer to that to make sure that they are not missing anything before they wrap up their disciplinary process. And then lastly, give time and space to practice. Don't expect perfection overnight. So being a good manager does take time. just like being, let's say, a new parent, right? We have our instincts, we're born with them, most of us, to be very nurturing and be very disciplinary. It's the same thing with being a new manager. Sometimes you have employees that feel that they never thought that they'd be cut to be in a managerial position. But when the opportunity presented, they're promoted, they are now managers. Um, it, it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't come overnight, right? You may have some good instincts, just from observing other managers in the past, but when it comes to actually putting your own spin into this management practice, you just need to take time to get your footing down um, and continue learning, right? It's never a one-time process as a manager. You learn different things no matter what. And it doesn't matter how long you've been a manager. You may have a lot of experience under your belt, but there's always something new that pops up that you are going to have to that could be a head scratcher. So with leadership development as a cultural norm, we want to start at onboarding. When the employee starts to work, the manager starts working. We want to set the leadership's expectations early on, right? We want to make sure that they understand what their role is within the company as managers of the company and what's expected of them. Are they expected to lead just a department? Are they expected to oversee um, other departments? Are they expected to uh, lead their employees into a different direction? Whatever the goal is, right? You need to set those expectations as to what their jobs are. You want to build development into career pathways. Okay, so you may have a good team that you inherited or that's newly formed for you. You may be getting to know these employees that report to you. Some of them you may already have a prior experience working with, and others maybe not. But every employee may have different career goals, right? Whether it is to stay within the company and continue to climb up the ladder, or maybe they are more interested in other areas of the organization that they wish to explore. As a manager, their responsibility really is to help nurture that, right? So not to stifle them and make them feel that they have to stay with you for life, obviously. You can't keep them if they don't want to stay here, but find ways to help them succeed and help them realize their dreams. You want to recognize and reward strong leadership behaviors as well. So it's hard. I mean, I had a manager that I worked with, who I became really good friends with over the years. And as I talked to her, I came to learn a lot of things about how she felt as a manager for our team. And this is after that we had both left the company. And she says she felt lonely. She felt that even though she had a group of peers that also managed their own teams, they don't really communicate much. And when someone does something that's commendable, there's rarely any recognition from their own regional managers. And sometimes it creates some low morale, right? And she wasn't looking for, a raise or a reward or anything. She just wanted to be acknowledged that she was doing a great job with her team. So it's important to find the times to recognize even the smallest achievements for your managers, just so that they know that you are paying attention to them, not in a bad way, but that they're being seen, okay, as a great asset to the company. You want to offer continuous learning, and it's not just a one and done training type of thing. But as managers, there are many different types of management training that's available all over, right? Whether it's something that they found from the internet, a webinar that you feel that they should be attending at a local venue, or even here at MP, we have a number of different types of leadership and management trainings that we can perhaps offer to your employees who you feel that could use some management skills brush up or just learn something new in general. And lastly, hold senior leaders accountable for modeling the way. So just as employees are are viewing their direct managers as role models on how they behave, how they view the company. It's the same thing with senior leaders. So these managers will look to senior leaders to see how they present themselves and how they view the company and how they see the company direction where it's going. So it's important to have these senior leaders hold accountable for modeling these ways and to have their support in further nurturing these new or current managers. So let's take some time to talk about the five most common manager pitfalls. All right. So pitfall number one, the manager's too hands-on or too hands-off, meaning they're either a micromanager or a macro manager. Okay. So what happens with that? Well, they tend to alienate employees by micromanaging them. I mean, it's like dealing with a child, right? Some childs don't like to be nagged by their parents. I should know, I have two of them. And they tend to want to just be left alone. Okay, so as a result of that, they alienate themselves from their managers because they feel that they are being suffocated. And then the opposite is when employees feel unsupported when the manager is too absent. So I've actually come across a situation where it was one of my managers. He told me that when the company did a employee engagement survey and asked for feedback about his management style, he shared with me that a few people from my team felt that he was too absent, and which I found kind of odd. Maybe it's because I don't like being micromanaged myself, and I feel that the way he managed me was fine. Not that he was never around, but whenever I needed him, he was always there to support me, if I called him or emailed him. So he always had my back, and I felt that I was happy with his management style. But obviously, some people in the team, perhaps maybe they came from a more structured environment where they had managers um, that were more vigilant, right, with what's going on with their employees. So who knows? But either way, the solution is to have regular check-ins at times with staff to set the stage for feedback, right? So it's both ways, right? You, um, as a manager, providing feedback to the employees, and then the employees providing feedback to you as managers. So pitfall number two is poor communication. So this will lead to mistakes, conflict, and low morale. So having clarity prevents mistakes. So set a communication cadence and follow up in writing. All right. So what you can do is talk about finding out what's the best way to communicate with each other, right? I know for me, I like to have communication via email. The reason why is because I am in client meetings a lot during my workday. And if I miss a phone call, sometimes I just let it go to voicemail and I forget. That's just me, right? I'm just not great at checking voicemail. So when I meet with my clients, let's say, for example, I set the expectation to let them know that, the best way to contact me is via email because I may be in meetings all throughout the day and I use my email as a way to keep track of any correspondences that I need to catch up with. Okay. And then also ensure that managers are familiar with their employees' job descriptions. Okay, so you're not a good manager if you don't know what exactly your employees do, right? Because nine times out of 10, either you've had a say in hiring them, or you've had a say in writing the job description that you wish to have the position fulfilled, to set those expectations. So making sure that you understand what the employees' job descriptions are, what they're supposed to do, so that you can avoid those accusations down the road to say that they're not doing their job, all right? And that it wasn't properly communicated with them what their jobs are about. All right, the third pitfall is failure to delegate. Okay, and we're talking more about those managers that tend to be more on the micromanagement side, right? So these managers become burned out as a result of that, and they never properly transition their role. Okay, so they may be new managers and they may have other projects that they were following up on from their previous life that they just can't let go. And they probably should have reassigned that project to whoever was remaining on their previous team, and then just move on and be the manager for the current team. Okay. There's also limits on growth opportunities for staff, right? So if you're not learning to delegate certain tasks and give others a chance to learn a new skill or learn about a new project, then you're putting a lot of limitation on how they're supposed to be able to grow within the company. So one thing you can do is create an environment that fosters delegation. Task your managers with delegating a number of items each month and follow up. So this could be an exercise, right, for you as a manager to basically train yourself to do, right? It's hard. I know I sometimes have trouble delegating tasks myself because I know the process so well that I can just get it done in 2 minutes. But those 2 minutes can be very precious to me in doing other things for my other clients or other projects. So if I'm able to delegate a task to one of my colleagues who have also been very willing to offer their assistance, then I have learned to let go of some of that, right? And it has helped me. Number four, avoiding difficult conversations. We touched upon this a little bit earlier. So delaying tough talks usually makes them tougher later, right? The more you put it off, the more a situation can snowball, and then it, before you know it, it's too hard to make things happen, right? It's too hard to fix things. So use a framework to make it easier. Um, Teach the feedback sandwich method to make delivery easier and coach and train on this topic. So the feedback sandwich method that's mentioned on the screen is something that's also that we touch upon and we train on in our giving and receiving feedback seminar. So I love that method as well. And just like the SBI model, this particular method has also been something that's been well received by our clients' managers who were trained in that. Lastly, failing to prioritize and set direction. So if this creates a reactive environment and can cause added stress and confusion. So many of us as managers, we have a certain level of organizational or executive functioning, I should say, um, that we're able to organize our schedules, organize our task in order to get them accomplished, right? Whether it's for the day or for the quarter or for the year. Okay. There are some that just don't have that ability, that talent, right? For the lack of a better term. So we need to help them recognize that and find ways to help them um, manage their time. It's all about time management sometimes, right? So one solution is for as an example, is to have managers list three priorities each week, right? What are the things that you must finish and get out the door by the end of the week? What are your deadlines? And also to connect priorities and goals to larger company goals and initiatives. Okay, so I have this report that I have to do. It's a monthly report, so I should probably start gathering the data by, let's say, a week before the month ends. Okay. But if I miss it, it's okay. Maybe not, right? Because at the end of the year, all the reports that you put together in 12 months' time would need to be consolidated to create an overall report that captures the entire year's results. Okay, so you need to sometimes kind of put that into perspective for those individuals that have trouble understanding why it's important that certain tasks need to be done. Okay. And sometimes these tasks could be redundant. I get it, right? I've been victim of that. But I learned the hard way that it does matter at the end because it's for the greater picture that matters to the company's overall mission and vision. All right. Okay. So now that we've talked about how to build better managers, let's talk about the next steps. So what are you going to do after our presentation today? Are you going to come up with a strategic plan to help nurture your new managers, or to help your existing managers that are struggling? Are you going to set up a timeline on how to set up how to manage their and track their individual development plans? All right. Are you going to look into more trainings to offer to your managers at this point to help them further develop or tweak their management skills? Okay. So the truth is, when managers grow, your teams thrive. So whether you build these programs in-house or bring in a partner to support you, the goal ultimately is the same. You need to equip your leaders to lead well. And that is it for my part of presentation. So right now I'm going to hand it back over to Katie.
Thank you. And thank you again, Sharon, for all your time, and thank you for all the resources you gave us. I did just drop a link into the chat. It's our next webinar, the Big Beautiful Bill webinar. As most of you probably know, there's been a lot of changes. There's been a lot going around. So register for that webinar. We'll be covering it, and then we'll be distributing a bunch of resources about that. So that way you can stay at the forefront of all of that. I just dropped another link in there for the post-webinar survey. So if you're interested in any resources from our webinar, or if you want to learn more, please take a few minutes. I promise it will only take 1 or 2 minutes to fill out that survey. But again, thank you so much, Sharon, for such practical and valuable insights. And thank you all for joining us today. As a quick reminder, we will be sending you the recording of this presentation along with the slide deck later this afternoon, so keep an eye on your inbox. I've also dropped those links in there. And if you were with us for at least 15 minutes, you'll receive a follow-up email with everything you need to claim your SHRM credit. And before you head out, please, again, fill out that post-webinar survey, and that will give us a better idea so we can keep creating good quality webinars for you. And on behalf of all of us at MP, thank you for being here, and we look forward to seeing you in a future webinar. Have a great day.